Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. So tonight, we're going to talk about Booty, Matt Booty, the Xbox Game Studios head, Matt Booty. He states that AAA titles take a minimum of 4 to 6 years to make nowadays, and we should understand that. I always thought AAA titles took at least 6 years to make anyway. I don't know, maybe I'm living under a rock or something, but I never thought a AAA title, a big title game took 2-3 years to make. Those days are long freaking gone from my understanding. They haven't been around for years. I think either I'm out of touch or Mr. Booty's out of touch, because I didn't think it took less than 6 years, 4 years on maybe a very small AAA title to make a game in the last 10, 15 years, maybe even going back as far as 20 years, if I'm being honest. Once the PS3 came out and the Xbox One and stuff like that, it was just understood that AAA titles took like 6 years to make. It seemed that way to me, and it has been for years. But maybe I've been living under a rock, because that's what I always thought. Because these games are in-depth, they progress, and I'm not talking of your Call of Duties and your Modern Warfares and stuff like that come out every year, every other year, because those are just wash, rinse, repeat. It's the same game, just a little more polished and changed. They don't rebuild a game from the ground up. But when you're building a game from the ground up, my understanding was it was always a 6-year process. That's where my brain went. I think the problem is that these game companies are announcing shit way too early these days. Don't come out and show me a game that's not coming out for 4 years, and then, and then start showing it off at every E3, every game award, everything like that, like it's about ready to come out, and then not expect fans to just be eating it up, because that's what they have, and have high expectations. If I see you showing off a game, I'm expecting it to come out in 2 years, because you're at enough point to where you can show me gameplay and a world and all that stuff. I'm like, cool, it's a couple of years out, not 6 years out from the time you show it to me, because you shouldn't have anything at that point. But maybe I am out of touch and thinking that it's always taken this long to last 10 to 20 years. Or maybe Mr. Booty is too far removed from game development because he's not part of that anymore, which I think is probably more likely. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of touch. Shane, what do you think? How long did you think it took to actually develop a AAA game from the ground up?
Well, Mr. Booty says 3 to 5, and I've always thought it was 3 to 5. But I was trying to look up, well, what was it in the 90s? Because I swear it used to be an average of 2 years for development time, and I knew it would increase, because you always hear about development times taking longer and costing more. Every generation has said that. And that's why, games are $70 goddamn dollars now, because development times and costs and all that. Well, you keep saying how your engine makes things easier and better, or your hardware makes things easier and better. Guess what, you lying bastard? You're still charging $70. So sorry, I was still pissed off about prices. But the 3 to 5 years, I can kind of see that with certain games. I'm not a developer. I don't know the technology. I'm a gamer. Just that's my background in games. But I can see with some games, mocap games, heavy mocap games, things like that. God of War, for instance, I can definitely see that. And then there's smaller titles like It Takes Two, for instance. You got really solid voice work in it, but I don't think that development time takes as long for a game like that. And I don't know if you want to consider It Takes Two, just as the example, as a triple A, though. Technically, I think that is falling more into the independent realm, but it's such an amazing game that I don't see it as a indie in myself. I don't think Booty's full of duty, but I always kind of thought it was a lot longer than that in this generation, because you look at Cyberpunk, that was in development for a long time. And then Sony's, that one Sony advertised for 17 years or whatever it was for the PlayStation 3, and then it went to PlayStation 4. It wasn't Ico. It was The Last Guardian. That thing was in development hell forever and a day. So, depending on your titles, I mean, depending on what you're doing with this game, I can understand it. But Pat's right. The biggest problem is in my mind, a game should only take 1 year, because you announce it that it's coming in a year. That's, in my mind, is when that game started. I don't care if you started it 4 years ago, 20 years ago. But when you say, hey, this game is coming out, and they show me a trailer, and then they show me another trailer the year from now, and then another year from now, and another year from now, that's a load of crap. That's why the Xbox especially gets themselves in trouble. I think them out of everybody announces way too soon. Crackdown is a beautiful example of, well, just a crap game, but it was a beautiful example of announcing way too early. Scalebound, they should have never announced it so far ahead of time. And then the following year, it was, here's gameplay. And everybody was like, oh my God, this looks freaking awesome. And I don't even think it was within the year. They're like, we're canceled. We're done with it. Microsoft has got to stop that. Don't announce anything more than a year and a half at the most. And that's just my opinion, because that gives you plenty of time to advertise. That gives you plenty of time to build up hype. That gives you plenty of time for pre-orders. I mean, because you can think about all that crap ahead of time. Focus groups, things like that are going to tell you kind of where you're going with this thing. They should have done with Redfall. Oh, this thing sucks. All right, let's not release it, boys. Microsoft, booty is, this time frame thing. That's fine. I don't care. Just don't tell me if it's coming out when you say, all right, I thought about a game. I'm going to start making it. Anybody got a pen? That seems what they're doing now. So I don't mind the time frames, because there's certain games that are, that come out every year that need that 3 to 5 year development to just wait on. Assassin's Creed every year, Call of Duty every year. Final Fantasy in my opinion, is a good example of a good time frame for games. Between 15 and 16, which is coming out soon. Look for that review. That's 15 came out, what, 5 years ago? No, 4 years back. I think it was maybe 5. Can't remember. To me, that's a good time span. So 4 to 5 years to develop a game like that, and I get the sequel or whatever, I'm good with it. So that's just me. I hate
15 came out in 2016, by the way.
16? Really? Is it that long? Perfect. I could have used another Final Fantasy fix a little before that. I mean, they did come out with Rebirth. So I was happy with that. What about you, Nick? I mean, what do you think? Do you really think it takes 4 to 5 years to develop a game, or should it take longer, because in 4 to 5 years, they send you a broken piece of crap 90% of the
time? I don't really care how long it takes. I initially thought, back then that it took about 3 to 4 years to make a AAA game. I don't really care how long it takes to make a AAA game. But if you're going to make a AAA game, the only thing I ask, and not even about, I do get annoyed with them saying, like, announce it, like you guys are saying, announcing a AAA game long before it's going to be released. That annoys me too. But the biggest thing that annoys me is announcing a AAA game, showing it off and things like that, and it just being the biggest load of crap the biggest pile of junk ever, right? All this money, development time, and everything went in to develop this turd. And it's like, look at our turds. Aren't they nice? I mean, because that's been the trend, especially lately, with all these big games, mainly coming from Microsoft in this case, right? But a lot of these big games coming from even third parties and stuff like that. Now, not all the AAA games, right? I'm not lumping them all in there, but a lot of these big games have recently, we've been seeing just them come out and be absolute turds. And that's the thing that every developer, it seems like big developers, big studios, push for these AAA titles. And it's like, you don't necessarily have to. Not everything has to be AAA. Not everything has to be like, the best thing since sliced bread, right? I mean, not all. I mean, there have been some AAA games that have been our favorites, but there's been some games for me personally that weren't AAA, that were indie titles or smaller A titles that were my favorite. I mean, Remnant's not I don't know if you would classify that as a AAA title. I probably wouldn't, but that was a super fun game as a cooperative game, and they're coming out with the second one, which is still not going to be a AAA title, but it's really the gameplay loop that makes a game worth playing, right? It doesn't matter how much money you pump into the damn thing. If the game sucks, you can pump $1 billion into it. It's still going to suck. It matters about the gameplay loop, the design, things like that, right? Money doesn't always, the amount of money, I mean, it can help, but the amount of money and stuff like that and time doesn't always make a fantastic product, right? In this case, we're looking at it as products, and that goes, that's not just with games, that's with like a lot of things out there, just because it costs a lot doesn't mean it's good. So, and just because it took a long time to develop doesn't mean it's good either, right? It takes, passion and desire and want, and of course the resources need to be there as well, but it takes a lot of other factors to really make something important. So that's the biggest thing for me when it comes to games. Like, I don't care how long they take, just have a dedicated, passionate team behind it that's going to do the best job they can with the amount of funds that they're going to get for this title, regardless if it's single, triple, double, quadruple A, ZZ top, whatever it is, and make the best possible thing, and not have corporations behind it like EA and Activision and whoever trying to milk off of what that passionate development studio is trying to make, right? By injecting loot boxes and microtransactions and all this other, and like gameplay loops that make you go to the store to buy things, and gameplay loops that make you have to go out to get things, or in order to have X, you got to go buy Y, but you have to buy that with real money, right? And things like that, where they inject all that crap in there. So that's the main thing I look for and hope for in the future of game development is that. Unfortunately, it's all bogged down by the other, but yeah. So I mean, they can take as long as they want with game development, as long as they make something worth playing. That's really it. Make it worth playing,
and don't announce it way too early.
Yeah. I was looking at.
Who holds the record right now?
And that's what I was about to say. So I looked up a list
for announcing something too early.
For games that have been developed.
Development time. So the 10 longest development times in video game history. So, all right. So the top 3, I'm not going to go through the whole list.
Beyond Good and Evil 2, number 1.
Nope.
I say Star Citizen would be.
No, Beyond Good and Evil has been in development 2, has been in development for 15 years, which beat out Doom not too long ago, which held the title.
Well, now granted, this I don't know the date on this list, but the longest I didn't have a clue on this one. So the top 3. So Pat, you've already nailed number 2, Duke Nukem Forever, which we all remember what a great turd that polished out. Jesus Christ. Mother 3, 12 years. Okay. Now that's an
So,
indie game.
Beyond Good and
Keep
Evil already
that-
has it beat. They're at 15.
No. Got that one beat. Mother 3. Beyond Duke Nukem Forever. According this list, it may not be updated yet. But top one, Metroid Dread. 16 years. I had no idea the game was even thought about 16 years ago. But they did it.
I will just put it this way. The Good and Evil 2 is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest development time of a game. So I don't know where that article got their information.
It's let's see if I can find a date on here.
Ubisoft isn't making that game. They just
this was
said
April 18th of last year, so it's a little behind.
I mean,
But
not
if that's
far,
the case for
I think.
Metroid Dread, Nintendo did a great job with that, right? Because they basically announced Metroid Dread,
Yes.
showed it off, and then less than a year later it was out, right? It was something like that. And it was like,
Mm.
we were like, oh, cool, new Metroid. Oh, and it's almost out. Like no one knew it existed. So it was
Yeah.
like perfect.
But
If you're
then
going to do it
last,
that way, 16 years later, sure. Have at
yeah,
it.
then you look at Last Guardian. It was announced for PlayStation 3 at
Yeah,
the
and
beginning.
then when that game came out, it did okay.
It did fine.
So I wonder where that article got its
And then Duke
information,
Nukem.
because according to Sakamoto, they did start talking about Metroid Dread in 2000, but actual development didn't start until, what's this article say, 2017. So it was
See-
only in development. It was in concept, but it was only in development since
Yeah.
2017.
And that's what I'm wondering if some of these games are falling under the I thought about it path. I thought about it. I brought it up to a friend.
Because like you brought up Cyberpunk, that game was 9 years in development and came out
Yeah.
a broken, atrocious mess.
Well, Nick, you remember Too Human? We were excited for
Mhm.
that one, and then that one was legal crap going on left and right, and all this other stuff. And that was 9 years, and the game turned out to be fine.
The game was okay. I played a ton of it, which I shouldn't have because it wasn't that great of a game.
It was enjoyable. I mean, we were playing co-op.
I played a
fun.
ton of it.
Enough. Yeah, but you also like a little pain. I mean,
I do. I mean, some games can be crappy but fun at the same time, right? Like they're so
Oh,
bad
yeah.
they're good. Those types of things. And I think
Yep,
Too
and-
Human was kind of that for me. It was so bad it was good that I enjoyed it, even though it had a lot of problems. And there's been games like that I've played in the past that I've liked in that case. Not recently. The ones that have been coming out that have been bad have just been plain bad.
just
Right?
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's good bad, and there's bad, and then there's Redfall bad. But-
yeah, so, it is what it is at this point. I don't think Beyond Good and Evil 2 will ever come out, which means that their development cycle is null and void because they never came out with anything, right? And then Scalebound, as you mentioned, they were in development for 4 years. So if they would just put 2 more years into it, but I think Skull and Bones probably has that one beat by now.
Oh yeah. You're gonna be Skull and Bones. So
That'll come out as a mobile game.
And then I'll vomit all over it. But yeah, so I mean, it is what it is at that point,
Pat would
right?
be pissed.
I'll be pissed off, but it is what it is at that point. It's in the day and age of too early, and that's all I have to say. I don't care if it takes you 10 years to develop your game. I don't honestly care. I'm with Nick. I don't want to know about it 10 years before you're ready to put it out. I don't care if you say, "Hey, we're working on a new XYZ game." Cool, whatever. My problem with it is that when you tell somebody about it and you created a CGI trailer, that gives the conception, the visualization, the thought process of the game is further along than it is, right? A CGI trailer to me says you have a good chunk of development done, and you have a story, you have character models, you have all this laid out, but don't throw out, because Good and Evil 2 did this, right? There's a CGI trailer out there for Good and Evil 2. There's not anything that exists for this game. There's still concept art. That's what exists for this game. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want to see a damn gameplay trailer until you're no further out than 2 years. I don't want to see that. I don't need to see that because so much can change. So much can change in 2 years, let alone 3, 4, 5, 6 years. We don't need to be. It's cool to get hype about something, but you don't need to be talking about the game and showing the game off when you're 6 years out. Microsoft is one of the worst, and Mr. Booty is part of the problem. You know, there are plenty of places out there. Ubisoft is another bad one about that. There's just tons of them out there that are really bad about it. The bad thing about Ubisoft is they become known as the freaking faucet of video games. They pump out the same game with different visualizations. You know, I'm afraid the Star Wars Outlaw game is going to be Assassin's Creed reskinned to Star Wars or Far Cry. I don't care what game it is. Far Cry is Assassin's Creed, is this, is that. Everything is a reskinned different game, right? That's really all that their stuff is anymore.
And they just stretch that skin out even more every time.
Right. You know, so that's what they keep doing. And everybody knows by now that's what they do. So, you know, we've come to understand that no matter what they put out the same thing. I mean, only person that can one up Ubisoft is Ubisoft. I mean, look, when they put out a game that is essentially Assassin's Creed, but, you know, what is it? Greek mythology with Phoenix Rising. It's the same game, but it did really well. It was a really good game. I'm not knocking or anything. It's a really good game, but they out Ubisoft themselves, and Ubisoft is about the only one that can redo that. But I am tired of hearing about a game 4 years before it comes out, getting all this hype up, and then the game has to go into push after push after push. I don't care. Just tell me. Don't start advertising until you're for sure out a year, 2 years max, and then we'll all be happy. You can tell me about it, but don't show off anything or anything like that because a lot can change. And then you just, you know, I don't know how many times I've saw Good and Evil 2 trailer, Skull and Bones trailer, and it's push after push after push after push after push after push. Game developers have a bad track record with this. I don't care if it takes you 6 years, 9 years, 10 years to make a game. I don't need to know about it. You can tell me Fable is coming. We're working on it. But it's like 10 years from now. Cool. Come see me when it's 2 years out. You know, start hyping me up in 2 years because at 10 years, I don't care. I mean, I'll be around in 10 more years to play this thing. So, you know, it is what it is at that point. But
Yeah.
You guys got anything else? And go for it.
I'll just put this out here for the end. Just the biggest reason this happens is these extremely early announcements is the biggest problem with the video game industry, which is stockholders. It's all about appeasing their stockholders. It's all right, guys, we're going to announce this. We're going to keep our stocks high. You know, they want to see all these things. The stockholders are destroying the video game industry because there's no other focus than money anymore. You have great developers, you have great game designers and all this who just want to make an amazing game, and they're just forced into all this other crap because of corporation dog crap. That's why they announce them 6 years early to, you know, keep the hype. You know, that's pisses me off, but that's what it is. So, and I'm still waiting for Metroid Prime 4 announced 6 years ago. Just put that out there.
They only showed a logo off, at least.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I say
CGI
the last thing
logo.
for me before we wrap up here. Support your indies.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there are AAA titles that come out in less time, right? It Takes Two was 2.5 years. They put that game out in 2.5 years.
But see, I don't know if I would call that a AAA, even though it felt AAA because of the
I mean,
the
what makes it
quality of
AAA? Is it the amount of money?
The amount of money spent to develop the game and
Spent to develop.
That's what.
And what's the
gets it.
threshold?
It's like millions.
Just that?
So-
Just millions?
No.
I mean, they had I think they had like a $4 million budget to create that game. So that's
So
And they-
$4.5 million is a AAA.
Last of Us 2 was a AAA title. Or it
The Last of Us.
It Takes Two was a AAA title.
So anything over $1 million, or
Yeah.
Probably.
I wonder
would
what
imagine.
the basis
Threshold has
is.
to be higher.
Why
I would
be
think
higher?
so.
because
Do you think the guy who made
everything-
Phasmophobia spent $1 million making his game?
No.
Do you think the people who made Alone in the Dark spent $1 million? To make
you're
their game?
you're talking.
Do you think the people that made
Hold on,
Seafarer,
I'm sorry. Did you say Alone in the Dark?
yeah, or what was that?
Yeah,
Limbo
that's AAA.
and Limbo and all those type of games. Do you think they
Oh,
spent $1
those
million
games?
to make those? No.
Probably Limbo. Yeah,
What would you call them? AAA
Do you
titles?
think Limbo cost $1 million to develop? I don't think so.
I bet it did.
No, it didn't.
I don't think so.
I don't.
But
think
would
so.
you call that AAA title?
No, that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
that's an indie game. You know,
Right.
and I'm saying that $1 million is probably the threshold.
That seems awfully small for a AAA.
Why?
I would think it'd be
Yeah.
higher than that.
That's what I
Why
would
would you
think too.
I mean, you're looking at classification, right? I mean, because they have AAA is not the only classification. They have AA, and then they have A, and so. I mean, those are, I guess, assuming that they're money portions of money. Nowadays, I would assume that AAA is way higher than $1 million. It's several million, whereas a AA might be not necessarily. I mean, because I wouldn't call like Phasmophobia even an A title, right? It's an indie title, which is like on its own category, right? It could be at the very beginning. It could have possibly been developed with $500, right? It depends.
So you do know that there's something higher than AAA, right?
Yeah, it was like quadruple A, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there?
So-
I've never heard a game called Quadruple though.
Perfect
Yeah.
Dark is considered to be a quadruple
Yeah,
A
Perfect
game.
Dark. I think this is the
Beyond
first
Good
one,
and Evil
right?
2 is
Original?
technically considered that. Skull and Bones is a quadruple title, quadruple A.
It's a quadruple Z.
Yeah. So no game that is out yet, right?
Yeah, no game that's out yet. It
Yeah.
costs too much. They can't.
Yeah.
Well, they say Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be like $1 billion development.
So
So,
it's going to be a quadruple A game, right?
Yeah. It's an S.
quintuple,
It's a
So, like-
it's-
So, but
S plus.
so you know, and there's also things that I don't understand that go into that. Like, so does marketing count towards that budget of a AAA title? If
yeah,
so,
that's what I
then-
was curious about. Like what makes a AAA, right? I mean, I wouldn't think just money. It has to be. I would assume it's several factors, not just cash. But I mean, that cash may be the only factor. I don't know.
Yeah, and I thought it was, and I don't know if it's just development costs or anything like that, but you know,
So here it says Final Fantasy VII was the, and this is wiki, so take it with a grain of salt. One of the first games to produce a triple A scale was Squaresoft's Final Fantasy VII, which cost at the time $40 to $45 million. So I would think, I'm trying to find if there's like a rating or scaling or something for it, but I would honestly think a AAA would be a lot higher, especially like today with inflation and crap. I mean, $1 million.
it's marketed as a AAA. It Takes Two is marketed as a AAA game.
Oh, I'm not doubting that, but I mean, see, to me, when I think of AAA, large studios, things like that, I'm not just thinking all
Wait a
the
minute.
money.
You know who makes It Takes Two, right?
Yeah, it was an independent developer teamed with EA. Was it EA
So-
or Activision? I can't remember. EA.
Wasn't it? Why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden on who published it? The publisher
drinking.
was what? Day drinking. That could be it too. Day drinking does hurt that. But let me see here. Yeah, it was EA. Like I said, EA was the
Yeah.
one. So Hazellight's been in business for like 10 years. So they're not a indie.
Hazellight. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Hazellight. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
what else have they made? A Way Out, I think, is the only thing I can think of they made. Can you guys think of anything else
Yeah.
they made?
I will tell you in a second because I'm pulling up their website. But you know, a AAA game, I guess, would be, you know, is a very cumulative thing. Marketing, development time, development cost, just game scope. I mean, really.
Right.
So in some ways, I can definitely see It Takes Two being a AAA game, but
I mean, but it only took 2.5 years to develop, and it was a good game. It wasn't
Yeah, it
a
was
long game or anything like that, but it was a really good
Yep.
game. I
Yep,
think
it was.
it was pretty good.
Yeah, we all gave it, really good review.
Yeah.
How much did it cost to develop?
I think I read that it only took like $4.5 million to develop. That didn't include marketing and all that other stuff. That was just development.
So there's got to be
Because
other factors, I assume.
EA picked up the marketing cost. Well, obviously EA picked up the marketing development costs and then recouped their money, through taking first dollar type stuff or whatever they, however their contract worked. So, that's what, and honestly, I think there needs to be a real definition and classification, because every classification I read is different. Like, what is considered a AAA? Somebody said it's amount of money spent on development. Another one said it's amount of money spent on development and marketing. Another one said it's about the quality. And I'm like, you can't say that, because indie developers make quality games.
Yes.
And you're going to call their game a AAA title? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Phasmophobia is one of those things that's a hidden gem, but I would consider that a AAA title, but it's a really great game,
Yeah.
So
Hazelight made the 3 games according to their website. Brothers, A Way Out, It Takes Two. Now, do we see a pattern with their development, with the kind of games they make? Cooperative.
2-player co-op.
Yep.
So,
All
right.
And they're all great games, so definitely check those out if you haven't.
All I know for sure is that games are getting more in depth, which means more development time, and anybody who doesn't understand that doesn't see, And if you thought that it takes 2 years to make any game, then that is what it is. That's you got to rethink that. But I, in no way, shape, or form, thought that it took 2 years to make a AAA game. My brain always went to 4 to 6, maybe longer, But that's just me. I don't need M Booty telling me what it is. We know as gamers, we know how long it takes. The problem is Mr. Booty, by telling us something that's in conceptual art phase. We're developing this right now, 6 to 10 years before the dang thing comes out. So, Mr. Booty, you are the problem. Goodbye.
Premature Booty.
Yeah, premature Booty. Booty is premature. So, that's it we've got for you guys. We're going to end it on we're blaming Mr. Booty for everything, and, it is what it is. So, you've reached the end of our show. If you've reached it this far, you should tap that booty and give us a like and a subscribe and hit that bell. So to hear more about Mr. Booty, make sure to like, subscribe, follow us, do whatever you need to. We're on social media everywhere, so make sure you do all that stuff. And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to catch you in the next one.
Pat likes booty.